NHL Nightly with your host, the sports, a.k.a. Peter Lebowski, a.k.a. Jeremiah Maxwell. And with him, as always, maybe Perlo, Wisdom, and Rico and Barry. Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining NHL Nightly. I am the sports beard, Jeremiah Maxwell. With me, as always, Perlo, Wisdom, one of the best handicappers in the business, Rico in Barrie, Ontario, and our good friend Occupancy coming live from San Jose, California. I am in Anchorage, Alaska. This is presented by Fans First Sports Network. Leave a like, subscribe. Welcome in Daniel Barry Sports Highlights. You legend, you always come in. John Reynes, let's go Rangers. Yes, the Rangers won. And we've got one game left. I've got the scores up to date. How's everybody doing on this fine Monday morning? Everybody have a good weekend.
Yeah, buddy. Hockey was good. Lots of hockey, lots of day hockey, lots of night hockey. So, yeah, we had some good games over the weekend.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Occupancy, Perlo. You could discuss the weekend. I want to get into the winners and losers for each of you from the trade deadline. I want to talk a little bit about the Torts sussy. We could talk about the Rempe hit tonight if you want to talk about that, but also Thatcher Demko being out. So those are some big stories. Just let me know what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, can you hear me okay, Beard?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear, my buddy.
Right on. Yeah, the weekend was really interesting. We kind of got to see a couple new faces with some new teams. You know, Tarasenko in his opening second game, got on the score sheet quite a bit. A couple other players making some impact. Kuznetsov had an emotional kind of, talking to the Carolina media. I saw. You got the crazy Minnesota move at the end of overtime to pull the goalie to try to get the 2 points. That was epic, and a rule that probably a lot of NHLers fans didn't know is if you actually lose, you forfeit the point when you pull that. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So that was an interesting situation from the weekend. My hometown team, the Islanders, have just been playing sturdy and have really turned things around, and we actually got a game coming out soon, but those are just kind of my first thoughts from the weekend.
Puck drops in 26 minutes, baby. So we'll be live when that's on. Perlo, go ahead.
It was an awesome weekend. Fantastic games. Going the Tortorella thing, I mean,
we'll talk about it later. We'll all talk about it. I definitely want your opinion on it, but I mean,
okay.
We'll get to it later in the show.
So we're going to talk trade deadline. I thought that Minnesota play was absolutely fantastic. When you look at it, like nobody saw that coming, and they had Nashville had players on the ice that normally don't play penalty kills, so it was like the perfect play. Like, that was a gold play.
I will tell you, Matt Merles called this. Matt Merles is on record saying this has happened in the Swedish league, and he's like, it's going to happen in the U.S. And Colby Armstrong said to him, he thought it would be Montgomery do it in Boston first, but get all credit, and that's why I'm wearing this. I agree with Perlo. Now, this I did not know, and I look, the older I get, the more I know nothing. I didn't know if you pull your goalie, you lose the point if they score the empty net. So you not only don't get the 1 point, you get no points. So that's crazy. But John Hines is like, we have to get 2 points basically here on out. I mean, it's not realistic that they're going to do it, but if they win 75% of their games, they might have a chance. I mean, I think that last spot in the West is kind of open. Well, let me just go. I mean, Vegas is sitting in the last spot in the West right now. That could obviously change as we progress. I know I have Vegas above me. I just want to get right into it. My winners and losers through the trade deadline, I think you could say there were a lot of winners. I love what Colorado did. I think that you could say there were a lot of losers. And by losers, I think teams that just did, like, why didn't Pittsburgh trade Riley Smith? Makes zero sense. Wasn't a fit. I get why the Capitals weren't able to move Pacioretty, because they didn't get the return they were looking for, and he would basically only waive to go to the Florida Panthers or the New York Rangers. And I think either of those two teams could have used a Pacioretty. He had that no trade clause. He negotiated that. It is what it is. I just think Stevie Y did nothing. And it might be the best move in the end, but that, to me, I thought they were big losers because they have dropped a bunch of games in a row. They need something there. Something's missing. And then, I mean, what can you say about Vegas? Kelly McCrimmon, George McPhee. I think George McPhee, all those years as the Washington Capitals general manager, and watching Jim Rutherford steal Stanley Cups right out from under his nose by trading to get Phil Kessel and all these additions that the Penguins were able to add and win cups because of it. You know, I think they're like, look, we're going to run as hard as we can and best we can. And I like the move. I will say it's going to be a minute to see Hurdle get assimilated in, and he's a different type of player. I know occupancy. I'm just going to throw it over to you now because I feel like I'm done. You've seen him play a lot. You think he's going to assimilate in that Vegas system real easy?
I do.
Okay.
He his last, season or two, he plays physical. He plays hard. He's not a light player. He'll take penalties too. I mean, he gets in there. So I think he could slot in and do okay. I mean, the whole San Jose thing and kind of the whole team in the last 5 years being, taken apart and away from each other has just been a kind of strange situation, but good for him. I mean, look, he's jumping in on a team that's going to make a run, and hopefully he gets healthy and can be a part of it. And I think he'll be fine.
Give us your winners and losers, and then we'll just throw it over to Perlo and then up to Rico.
Winners would be like you were saying, Carolina. I think Gensel, when he gets healthy, is going to really, really help.
They won that trade too, by the way, in my opinion, big time. Even if they don't re-sign Gensel, I don't feel like they gave up that much. Go ahead. I apologize.
Winners, Winnipeg. Holy moly, they got Tyler Toffoli.
Yeah, they're straight dominated the Caps tonight.
Yeah, winners. That's it, I think, in the trade area, because they're, I'm looking just down, up and down the standings. Like some of these teams didn't, like Boston didn't make moves. I mean, the Rangers brought in Wenberg and right. Rangers brought in Wenberg and the guy on the first line tonight,
Jack Roslovic.
Mm-hmm. I kind of call them a push. I don't think it's a big win. I don't think it's a big loss for them.
For the record, Roslovic looked really good in 2 games with the Rangers. Like, really good.
Yeah.
On the forecheck, getting the puck out.
But when they were talking Henrique and Vetrano, and if you were looking forward to Henrique and Vetrano and you got them, I don't know.
Major letdown for sure.
I think. Leafs, I mean, was Lyubushkin the only move they made, really?
Joel Edmondson. They had a Joel Edmondson from the Caps.
Okay, I call that.
Yeah. I mean, the Leafs had bad defense. What were they going to do with the cap space? Like we were talking about this, Rico and I beforehand. I think they were probably in on everything.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Tampa, they really just got Duclair.
And Matt Dumba.
And okay, I missed that. I did miss that. So Matt Dumba. Okay, I call that a push. Philly. They waived Johansson because there's some drama, I think, but that was really it. I think they got rid of Walker, so I think that's a loss for Philly.
Yeah, you don't have to go through everything. I just want to get
yeah. Sorry,
you're good.
Yeah.
Perlo, I'm just getting some background noise from you, so I muted you. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Give us your winners and losers from the trade deadline. Go ahead.
Well, Vegas did it again. I mean, my gosh, that was amazing what they did. They are definitely the winner. I love what Colorado did as well.
Absolutely.
Got some really good depth pieces. I would say, and Winnipeg getting to Foley, I thought was fantastic as well. It fits in perfect in that system. So
if you count Monahan too, man, like that's such a great
yeah, and Monahan too. Yeah, if you go before, I'd say those are the big winners. I don't really think there's too many losers so much. People that teams that didn't do anything, but it was a tough trade deadline. So there wasn't really much out there. It was pretty hard to fit everything under the cap. I mean, people say Detroit, but I mean Detroit did all their moves already. Like they did a lot of moves before the season started. I don't think they wanted to upset the apple cart too much. So I don't blame them for not doing much. I suppose the Islanders, you would have thought, but they have no cap space. So none, like literally no cap space whatsoever. And they just got a new coach and they're playing well. So do you want to bring in somebody? So I don't know if there's all that many losers. I know, as I said in Twitter, I'm a little skeptical about what Buffalo did with Byram. And I think Byram could end up being really, really good, but he really has regressed a lot from the time he got in, and he's had a difficult time in the league. And I guess I like Middlestat a lot more than a lot of other people do. I thought Colorado did a really good job of making that trade. But I could end up eating my words because Byram has tons of talent. He was brought in as a top prospect, and he had concussion issues. He's had injury issues. Now, is he going to bounce back from that? Season. I suppose. But he could bounce back from that. But, I mean, that's a lot of he's had a lot of difficulties. That's all I mean,
he's not played 100 games. He's not played 100.
Maybe he overcomes it. Yeah,
and he's almost really, a half a point a game player. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't even know if he's had a chance to regress. He hasn't played that.
If you go on my Twitter, I'll show you like 7 or 8 defensemen under the age of 22 that are way, way, way better than him right now.
So well, why don't you pull that up while you're waiting? That's fine, but why don't you look up those names and drop them in the chat for everybody to see while Rico gives his
Twitter losers. I can do that. Yeah.
Is Bo Byram? He's a right-handed shot, is he not?
No, he's a left. That's the one thing I will say. Like they've got Rasmus Dahlino in power and now Byram. So they have an overabundance of left-hand shots. That I don't disagree with. I actually thought that was a great hockey trade for both teams. Buffalo's going to need to make some moves. I think they got to get rid of Skinner at some point. I think they got to get him off that roster. They were never going to trade Alex Tuck. I love the move for both teams. Colorado needed a second line center, and from what I heard today, Chris McFarland, it sounds like they're not getting Landeskog back. It looks like it's going to be more on the 15-month side. He had that surgery May 14th. They said a year to 15 months. Well, so even if they got him back, it was looking like he would be back late second round, early, like third round conference finals type thing, potentially Stanley Cup. So Landeskog is even more of a long. I also heard for the Vegas haters, it looks like that spleen recovery surgery is actually like, anywhere from 90 days and out. Well, that's 3 months. That would mean Mark Stone would miss the entirety of the playoffs. And I guarantee they're not going to risk if he's not fully healed, even though they'll need him badly in the lineup. We all know that guy's a warrior will get in. Anyway, Rico, I didn't mean to steal your thunder. Go ahead and give us your winners and losers from the trade deadline.
No, that's okay. I love it when two NHL teams just work for the trade, and Colorado and Buffalo, it worked for both sides. I mean, Bo Byram, I think he was having a hard time living in Makar's shadow over there, knowing that there's just not much room for him there on the back end to be a number one guy. So, I mean, hopefully he gets a time in Buffalo and he'll be behind Dahlin and maybe get ahead of Power. But good young core. I know Buffalo's going to be into a lot of money with a couple of defensemen next year, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes forward. But the winners of the deadline,
Rico, correct me if I'm wrong, and anybody in the chat can pipe in. I think they already have Dahlin and Power signed like long term
for like 20 million between both of them, I think, next year. So their contracts are going way up.
Yeah, but they're not making. Hey Nick, thanks for joining us on Twitter, man, for X or whatever. That's awesome. We don't get a ton of Traction on X, just views. Appreciate you. I'll throw up the stats. Bowen Byram has 148 games played. He's scored 24 goals, has 41 assists. 65 points. He's a plus 16. From Cranbrook, British Columbia, was an all-star in the WHL. He's only 6'1", 190 pounds, but he's 22 years old. I think a defenseman, you don't give up on them until they're 35. Like, that's how I look at it, because you just never know when these guys are going to go. Go ahead, Rico. Finish your thoughts on the.
Cranbrook, BC. That's where Yzerman was born. But yeah, obviously I like Vegas. I like that Colorado Buffalo deal. Love what Winnipeg did as well too. That's somebody that I wish Toronto would have picked up, especially for what you got for him. Is Colin Miller, right-handed, big shot. The guy scored 5 power play goals with Vegas, I think, in 17 or 18 one of those years, just not getting power play time anymore. But a big shot from the right sides. Toronto could have probably used that. Obviously, I love what Florida did with Tarasenko and Pozo as well too. But important with Florida too is signing Gustav Forsling to that contract at that decent amount of money, because you know who's coming up next is Reinhart next year. So even that little bit of money they saved on Forsling might able to sign Reinhart with that extra money they have. So also love Carolina too. You arguably got the best player out there in Gensel, and Carolina in years past they haven't really went for it. And what's their problem in the playoffs is scoring. So I know Carolina's all in this year. The Carolina fans are happy they got Gensel, and I'm pretty excited to see them compete in the East as well too. Because they could definitely go to the final.
And they had Kuznetsov for nothing at 50% retained, and he's looked good in the 2 games he's played for him already. So
so those are the ones I liked. The ones I didn't really like, and I know they're up against cap and everything, but they could have added some sort of center and some sort of facet, was Boston. I know going after Maroon and Peak wasn't a ton there, but one of the biggest ones too is LA. I know they're almost at the finish line with Boston's goalie Allmark there. So I don't know if that was part of his no trade teams and that's what nixed the deal in the end or what, but I heard Pierre-Luc Dubois' name was floating around there in that deal as well too. But no, the Kings,
talk about buyer's remorse for LA, huh?
Huh?
Talk about buyer's remorse for LA. If they were trying to trade.
Yeah, but they're right in the playoff spot, and them just grabbing even a goalie, never mind the number 1 goalie like Allmark, it would have been pretty wicked. And probably the player that lost the most and got the shittiest deal of this whole trade deadline was probably Ryan Johansson. Like, 1 minute you're on the Colorado Avalanche, you're on a cup run and everything. Next thing you know, Devontae's probably calling you out a couple months ago saying you're looking for your apples, and you're probably thinking you're playing better than you think you are. So sayonara, Ryan Johansson. Feel bad for the guy, but he's still making his sheets in the minors right now, so can't feel bad for a guy making that type of money.
Yeah. Are you done with your losers?
Yeah, like I said, probably
Boston, real quick, I want
a little bit of Toronto, LA.
I got a question for Rico, but everybody in the chat. He mentioned Andrew Peak. Okay, and that is the most perplexing trade that happened. Okay, and Frank Saravelli brought this up today. Actually Sunday when he recorded it, but today when I watched it with him and Jason Gregor on the Daily Face-Off Rundown. Shout out Frank. I like to give credit where I get the information from. But I saw that trade and I was like, oh yeah, Columbus was going to have to move off Peak anyway. They have too many defensemen. I heard they were trying to trade Provorov, blah, blah, blah. But it seemed like they were going to have to buy Peak out. I think he has another year left on the deal. And Boston gives him a third. I didn't get that at all. The guy was a healthy scratch a lot this year. He has not played well. That one, I don't know what Don Sweeney was doing on that one. Rico, did that one confuse you a little bit? Just curious on that trade.
Yeah, no, a little bit, because me and Perlo were talking about Peak too, and I knew his name was floating around to the Leafs, and Perlo nixed the defenseman as a whole, saying he's not that great of a player. So it got me off Peak, and I'm glad the Leafs didn't take him. So I didn't understand the deal, but
yeah, I think that John Davidson fleeced Don Sweeney on that one. Good on temporary general manager Don Perlo. I know you got thoughts on Peak here. Go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your thoughts.
It was a horrible trade. Peak is like, you could have got him on waivers next year, and he'll be on waivers next year. I don't know what the heck they were thinking there. Absolutely terrible trade.
Yeah.
And didn't they give up? And didn't they give up that 2015 defenseman that didn't pan out with it as well?
I think that was just for a third. I'll pull it up. But
Zaboral.
Oh yeah, I think they gave up Jacob Zaboral. Yes, he was one of the guys in that 15. Yes. You're right.
Yeah.
I forgot Zaboral was in that trade. That's right. You were all over it. Yeah. Go ahead, occupancy. Go ahead.
You know who else shit the bed?
Not much on that.
You know who else shit the bed this year? And this stems from signing this guy late in the season when nobody else wanted him, was the Ottawa Senators. And sure, you picked up Tarasenko, but you gave him a goddamn no trade to basically every team except for the Florida Panthers, handcuffing you into getting mid-round picks for Tarasenko.
I mean, Dorian did screw the Senators over with a couple of those deals. One, trading Gustafsson to Minnesota for Cam Talbot. That didn't work out. I know they had some decisions to make with Josh Norris. They should have kept the guy they traded to Tampa Bay, Nick Paul. Hey, he's not as good as Josh Norris, but you know what? You know what he does do better than Josh Norris? He actually is healthy enough to play the game of hockey, which would help them. I just don't understand. You could go back and look. I would love. Hey, by the way, if you feel like saucing Shane Pinto over to the Washington Capitals, I'd take him in a New York minute. By the way, just get
Washington minute.
Franchise up enough. Just trade that unbelievably great two-way center that I think is going to compete for Selkies in 5-6 years. I'd like him on my roster. I just don't. I'm with you guys. I was trying to think. I actually thought it was a really good trade deadline because GMs got out in front of it. Alvin for Vancouver, they got out in front of it. I actually love what Edmonton did. They added some grit. We're not even counting Corey Perry too. They added him. That was good for that lineup. I will say though, I was not impressed with Edmonton's victory over Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is just so bad. And I'm telling you right now, Chris Letang's not going to the Hall of Fame. That pass that he threw up the middle was that McDavid just picked off and shelved, which I was awesome for you, McDavid, because Chris Letang should have got credit for an assist. That was such a bad turnover. I was blown away by how terrible he was. I watched that game from start to finish. And Edmonton really didn't show me anything. In fact, I was actually surprised they don't, I think if Edmonton would have been clicking I've seen that team click before, they could have put 10 on that Pittsburgh team, no problem. And Pittsburgh didn't even threaten. And I'll tell you what, too, Crosby almost unnoticeable too. I wonder if he's starting to wear. Anyway.
How many Hall of Famers are on the Pittsburgh Penguins current roster right now?
Well, Malkin is going in. He's won a Conn Smythe. He's won a Hart. He's going. Crosby's going in. I think that's it, my friend. I mean, Letang's probably borderline at this point. I mean, I don't think he's even been top 3 Norris. They won one of those Stanley Cups where he was injured he didn't play at all. It was Dumoulin and Justin Schultz, and they did it it was one of the better coaching jobs ever. Mike Sullivan and Todd Reardon did such a good job managing that defensive. He got Todd Reardon a head coaching job, really, honestly, in my opinion. The Cats hired him. Huh?
What about Carlson? Is he going in?
Erik Karlsson is. I actually, if you look at his numbers, he's not been bad defensively or offensively for them. He's not been as dynamic as he was last year with the Sharks. But let's face it, that entire team's offense revolved around him. That's not the case with Pittsburgh. We all knew this. Every one of us said that was a horrible ad. I will tell you, I think Dubas mishandled the bag. I think he got too little for Gensel. Now, look, Carolina had all the cards, though. Like, they knew they had to trade him. I don't understand why you don't trade Riley Smith, retain. He's a UFA. Like, it makes no sense. He hasn't fit in there. Like, get rid of him. I didn't hear his name once on the game. I don't know if he's out banged up or something, but I didn't hear his name one time. Like, that's usually an yeah, I'm salty. You're not wrong. The Pittsburgh should have done what the Caps did 2 seasons ago. The Caps were like, yep, we're not going to make it. And the fans were calling for it. They were like, no, we're done. Like, this is it. We've had our chance. Like, if we make the playoffs next year, great. And we still have a chance. But I'll tell you right now, like, I was glad they were sellers. Like, get rid of guys. Next year, they'll trade Dowd. I guarantee you, next year, they'll trade Dowd, and I bet you they trade him to Perlow's team, Edmonton. Anyway, I just wanted to ask that Pete question. Let's talk about this before we start getting into preview games. We definitely will preview games. I love the Tarasenko signing. I just wanted to caveat that. I thought Florida did as good as they could do without really having anything. You know, I heard the term Gucci return with Walmart prices. You know, they were looking for Gucci, but they didn't have a lot of room. I thought Tarasenko, I know he basically said that he would only go to Florida, but it was a nice ad for them. They probably didn't need the scoring, but Tarasenko's actually, he was leading the Ottawa Senators in plus minus. I was really, like, we weren't giving them a lot of credit because, quite frankly, nobody was watching Ottawa. Like, I watch a lot of games, and I haven't even been watching Ottawa for like 2 months because they've just been so bad. So, but we just quietly forgot, like, if you look at the stats, Tarasenko was playing really well defensively. Jeff Chitrin was on Brico. I'm sure you heard Jeff Chitrin today on Nick Kiprios, Justin Bourne show. What he said about Tarasenko in Ottawa, because obviously he watches Ottawa too because his son plays there, and Jacob. By the way, one of the most underrated analysts, Jeff Chitrin, that works for Valley Sports Florida and covers the Florida Panthers. I just was really impressed with what he had to say about Tarasenko. And I was like, wow, I looked at his numbers. I was like, wow, Tarasenko has actually had a pretty good year. And he's been pretty good, like, forechecking and stuff. And I think that's lost
good plus
on
numbers.
Yeah, he led
like
Ottawa.
Plus player in Ottawa.
If you're a forward that's leading, you're playing good defense. You know, I was impressed. Anyway, that's kind of the end of the thing. I had Detroit up there. I just thought Stevie Y should have done something. Nothing big, but one trade. I'm sure it wasn't for a lack of trying. We all heard Justin's Hall name out there. Everybody's just probably clued in that they don't want
Everybody's
Justin
just
Hall.
begging for Justin Hall, too. Everybody's lined up for him.
Yeah. Yeah, right. My boy Hot Take Hockey, man, so many times calling Leafs games and just like cursing Justin Hall's name. Anyway, by the way, shout out Hot Take Hockey. I wasn't planning on it. It just sort of he ended up needing that assistance. We went 7+ hours on the trade deadline Friday. I've had a bunch of people hit me up at Bleacher Report and say, hey, awesome job. I was like, dude, even at the end of that, I was like, that's a long time, man. Like, to stream. Like, I know Pete Blackburn did a 24-hour stream. I felt so bad for him because nothing really happened on trade deadline day except for really the hurdle news. And that happened so close to the end. By then, everybody's like, oh, my God, bro, this is screw Vegas, but I'm too tired to complain. So,
dude, it was the best, man. It felt like I was hanging out with you in Hot Take all day. I woke up in the morning. I had my house coat on. I just made myself a tea, made myself some brekkie, put the feet up, put you and Hot Take on the screen, let you guys run the show and tell me what was going on and put my feet back instead of having to scroll through Twitter and all that shit. So that was the cool thing about watching you guys break stuff and shoot the shit about hockey. So it was a good relaxing day for me. You guys put in the work and I appreciate it, man. You guys did an amazing job.
Any opinions? You thought it was great then? You just did anybody did you furlough or occupancy? Were you able to watch a little? I don't know if you guys tuned in.
No, I didn't catch it. But if it's posted, I'd check out some of the recordings.
Yeah, you could. It's on his page. You could check it. It was 7 hours of trade deadline with HTH. I had to get up at 2:30 a.m. here to work. Go ahead, Perlo.
Yeah, I jumped in every once in a while. It was cool. It was definitely better than anything you're going to find on Sportsnet or TSN. That's for sure. I liked it a lot better than that. I usually don't really watch those things, but I jumped in whenever I had a chance, and I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
appreciate it.
it's
go
a
ahead,
little
Rico.
different than it's a little different than the TV narrative where there's scripts and there's just borderlines and guidelines and stuff you got to follow and what you say and what you do and stuff. So having a live stream is totally different, and I love that aspect of it because you can say a little bit more, you can get away with a little bit more. So off the rails a little bit. So I like that aspect of watching that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I will say,
I liked about it.
I did not swear. There was no swearing, so I purposely did not swear. HTH has to keep. We don't fucking care on this show. This show is an adult show for adults, and if kids watch it, great. But like, we're gonna swear. I just don't do a warning or anything. We're just gonna have heated debates and have a good time, and we're gonna talk gambling too, which I don't know how many kids can actually do that. So legally anyway. So I'm not encouraging any of this behavior. I wanted to talk about, before we go into previewing tomorrow's games, I wanted to talk about one more big piece of news that we heard besides Tortorella. We'll talk about Tortorella, but
Saquon Barkley's playing for the Eagles.
No. If we have time, we'll talk football, all the football craziness. Thatcher Demko out. I heard 2 to 4 weeks initially. Now it's being reported 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
What are your thoughts on Thatcher Demko? Go ahead, Perlo. You take it first this time.
That's just devastating, to tell you the honest truth. I hope he can come back and get back to where he was before, because if there's a team out there that can't afford to lose a goaltender, Vancouver is it. Oh, it's going to be good thing they're in a really good position right now, and they'll be able to move on. But
Casey DeSmith's got good numbers this year.
He's not bad. He's not bad, but historically, when he has to play more, like, he's great. He's like one of the best backups in the league. But when he has to play a lot, he tends to crumble. So I think they'll be okay. They're well in a playoff spot, so it couldn't happen at a better time, I suppose. It's not in the playoffs. They're already in a playoff spot, so he gets to fix whatever he has to do. So it's not that big of a deal. It's just when you hear a guy like Demko out, it's like, man, that sucks.
I'd say this too, though, real quick, just to caveat what you're saying. The one thing I'd say is if I'm a Vancouver Canucks fan, I'm probably not as stressed because of DeSmith. But the second thing is they've given themselves such a nice cushion at the top of the West. Really, I think they're okay. And honestly, the last few games I've seen them play, they've looked like they've regained their form too. So, but that is a bummer. I did remember when he got called out. Go ahead, Rico. Give us your thoughts, and we'll finish up with occupancy on Demko being out.
Yeah, I mean, DeSmith hasn't played a whole lot either. Demko's been running the show in the net. He's basically got a career best in wins this year. He just won his NHL best 34th win as well. So I mean, they're probably taking it a little precautious. I know the latest I heard from talk it wasn't that serious. So I think, like you said, they got some breathing room atop that division. It'd probably be about a 3-week, maybe. If they needed him in the playoffs were starting, it'd probably be around that timeline. But for them to have that lead over top the division 2 to 4 weeks, they'll keep this guy out so he's ready when the games are becoming a little more important. So word is that I don't think it's as serious as people think with that timeline. You kind of worried a little bit, but where they are in the standings and stuff, I think that's just more of a precaution as well. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Occupancy, go ahead and finish the Demko. And then we're going to talk about John Hines. I'm going to let Perlo lead the discussion on that one.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot to add. I mean, mostly what Rico and Perlo were saying. They have the lead in the West. If DeSmith being in is a swing of 6 or 8 points in the long run for the last month, I don't think it's a huge deal. I think the big deal is Demko getting back for the playoffs and for the end of the season.
Healthy,
I think that's the big deal. So next couple of weeks, I mean, this could be a blessing in disguise. Give him some rest, get him off the ice, a little bit just towards these games where, again, they're not really fighting to get into the playoffs. They're already in. But I was just looking at DeSmith. He doesn't have a whole ton of playoff experience. He's got he was on Pittsburgh for all those years, but he didn't get a ton of starts. He's only actually played one playoff game. So if it is DeSmith who has to, be the starter in the crease in April, then I think we could ring some bells and set off some alarms. But I think for now it's okay.
Yeah. So real quick, I'll just flash up the wild card standings, and you can all see for yourself. Like, Dallas is at 89 points with 66 games played. Vancouver's at 91 points with 66 games. Winnipeg or Dallas could catch them. They're probably not dropping 10 points to Edmonton. They've played too good, where you could see Edmonton take home ice. I do think home ice is huge in the first round for the Pacific because you're going to play that 7th or 8th seed. And Edmonton, and it's probably going to be Edmonton and Vegas if I had my guess. But we'll see, because Vegas has only played 64 games. So, if they will just see how that go. I know Edmonton has a game in hand on them, but regardless, I think you're going to see them the 2-3. So, what Perlo's saying in the chat there, I says, is the Penguins are done. I think that's what he meant to say. So I'm going to let him unmute himself, actually, because we're going to go right into the thrust of the John Hines pulling his goalie in overtime against the Nashville Predators. And you can see where Minnesota is there. They're at 69 points and Nashville at 70. They went on that big run. So it's going to be a big thing. Let me get this thing off there. But go ahead, Perlo. Give us your thoughts on what you thought that move and is it the last time we've seen it?
Definitely not now. I mean, I didn't realize it. You told me that this was something that happened in Europe all the time, but I mean, it was just a fantastic move. I didn't know about the fact that you were risking the point to do that either, but to pull your goaltender in that spot was brilliant, because you've got players out there that normally don't play on the penalty kill. So you got to go for it. They got to win 14 games of the remaining games for them to get in. So everything is go for it right now. And they surprised everybody. I thought it was awesome. Also, Rico and I have talked up Hines quite a bit, haven't we, Rico? A lot of people have poo-pooed on us for that. And I've always said that Hines was a really, really good coach, and he's showing it more and more all the time. I don't know what everybody has a hate on for him for, but I think he's a great motivator and a great tactician, and that was a really good example of it.
Go ahead, Rico.
I know Minnesota was coming to play. That was one game where I just enjoyed watching it. I don't watch a ton of Nashville games. I don't watch a ton of Minnesota games, just where they are in the schedule and when my favorite teams are playing, stuff like that, just bouncing around league. But man, what a great game. As soon as I saw that Fleury was starting too, I knew that he was going to give it his balls too. And he made some wicked saves in that game too. It was back and forth, tough. He had a couple of fights in the first 10 minutes, I think, of the first period. That was just a wicked game. These teams hate each other. I mean, Nashville's another team where you probably don't want to just say that's an easy win in the first round too, because Saros could steal a series and Burnett has them playing so good. They're hard on the puck. They challenge, they win battles. They win puck battles, man. Nashville, they're a hard team to play against. So no, Minnesota gave it everything, but that was a great game. But I don't know where the percentage of ratio of people that didn't know that rule, as far as even head coaches and stuff and management in the NHL, to the percentage of more teams that are going to be using that, even down the stretch where you're 2, 3, 4 games left in the series and you're in the season and you're 2-4 points out, and the game goes to overtime. Why didn't we see this in the last couple of years? We're going to maybe see this a little bit more down towards the end of the season here.
I got a question for you, and I'm going to let Occupancy answer it because he hasn't got to go, but here's my question for you guys. Occupancy will kick it off. What if you're tanking and you don't want the point and you pull your goalie on purpose anyway and you lose and it benefits you because you get less points and you got a chance? What are your thoughts on that one, Occupancy? Chicago Blackhawks are eliminated. They're up with the Sharks. the Sharks pull their goalie. They're playing Chicago, which hopefully we have one of those tankathon games. And it's like, go ahead.
I think it's using the rule to your favor. I mean, why not? I mean, who cares what the media says? Who cares what people, they did that. It's like if the rule's in the book and they're really trying to get Celebrini to play with Bedard, and it's a difference between, a couple points at the end of the season, and they really don't, why not? I mean, maybe Bettman will write a letter and tell them, hey, don't do, I don't know. But if it's in the books, why not?
Why would you do it?
I saw this. I mean, it was going on in Europe a lot, but what I actually, before the Ukrainian conflict, Sergei Fedorov got a head coaching job over at CSK, the big team over in Moscow, and his first season coaching, he just started doing it right in the beginning of the season. He started pulling the goalie, tie game in overtime, and it bit him in the ass a couple times, but it worked a couple times. So it's just a risky, crazy move that you do get the open space, and if you trust your guys to yes, Salty, yes, the team over there, yep, the Red Army team, but it's who's your personnel. To me, you had Kaprizov, you had Boldy out there, you have Zuccarello. It's guys you could trust with the puck. It's not guys that might make stupid. These guys can all stick handle. So look, if you think Minnesota's still got a playoff chance, that was it. I mean, that was a crucial point. So every point matters here in this stage of the season, and ultimately, I don't know if it's going to be the needle mover for them to get in, but if they are going to go, that we'll all be looking at that point. And it was a risky move. Hines had a lot. That was a former team angle, big time with Hines, right? He coached on Nashville for quite a while, so I'm sure he was getting riled up there, to get it.
Oh, so, yeah, he got fired by Trotz. Absolutely, he wanted to stick it to him. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Minnesota is one of those teams where the last few years, going back even 10 years, they've always been in the playoffs. They've always just kind of not quite got there as far as getting past the first or second round. It's too bad that maybe their time has come, but I mean, damn, the playoffs were fun watching it wild in the playoffs. Like the boards are wild there, the freaking crowd's wild, the team's wild. Like it's such a great atmosphere in Minnesota whenever they're in the playoffs. Like them playing against Nashville, I really enjoyed that game, man. And some of the West Coast teams play a little bit more defensive. The building's a little quieter and stuff out there sometimes, but seeing those mid US teams play hockey when it gets to games that matter, I just love watching it.
I'm sorry, I'll tell you, I never understood as a guy who grew up in the States why like Wisconsin didn't have a pro team. Like you're gonna tell me that hockey wouldn't be big in Milwaukee or even they could have it in the college town. They could have it in Madison. Like Columbus is a college town. They have a college team. Okay.
There definitely could be more teams out west. I mean, I think the way the league was developed, just the Northeast, got a ton of teams, but there's a ton of country out in the. I mean, think North Dakota. I think Beards talked about the show. Grand Forks, UND. I mean, not saying they would get a team, but you could look there. I mean, what are they? I mean, Colorado could have two teams realistically. I mean, you could put one in Colorado Springs. I'm sure they'd have a ton going there. Boulder or something. These other states. I mean, yeah. North of there. I mean, Oregon. Idaho. I mean, I'm sure you got some hockey markets, to be tapped. Utah's gonna, I guess they're gonna be the ones to get a team. Thoughts, Perla Rico?
Another team in like Houston, they could support a team easy right there.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure that's going to end up. And I've heard for sure they're going back to Atlanta one more time. So I mean that's a big market there. I've heard it for sure that's going to happen. So.
Sorry, Atlanta's a huge market. I mean, that's where TNT was born too. So maybe the coverage and things change a little bit with more social media, more media coverage, just the way they do it now, and promote hockey. I think Atlanta's a no-brainer to probably go back there and having them in a division. In that, if they start adding more teams, start realigning the divisions maybe a little bit. But yeah, I could see the Atlanta Thrashers. I don't know if they'd be called the Thrashers or not, but
you got it right. Bring it back. Just bring it back. I'll say this: the Arizona Coyotes are going to play Utah.
Yeah, Utah
next year, and I think we're going to hear the announcement somewhere in the playoffs here.
But let me ask you: I mean, do you think that's good or bad for the sport?
I think that Arizona will get the next expansion team when they have a decent owner and a building already put together. So whether that's 10 or 15 years. Here's why I'm a little bit heartbroken. Rico can attest. He's got two players that were born and raised in Arizona playing on the Maple Leafs. They're playing the hockey mecca. You got Austin Matthews, arguably the league's best goal scorer. I think it's him or Pasternak. And you throw Matthew Nyes in there. We don't even know what he's going to be. Hopefully he develops into a superstar there, or a really great player that can play top six consistently. So I feel like Austin Matthews was inspired by seeing Ovechkin score that goal against the against the Arizona Coyotes, and he wanted to play hockey the rest of his life. He saw that in person live. I just think that any kid growing up in Arizona that would play hockey might be cheated out of that same inspiration that Austin got. And I hope that because it's such a large, I think it's the 5th largest market for the U.S. It's top 10. Anyway, I just, a lot of people are moving to that state. And I think Northeasterners and stuff are now their parents have been out there snowbirding for 20 years. They're going out there and they're like, why do we live in New England?
Yeah.
With the taxes are high and the weather is shit, so you're seeing that. I mean, occupancy, you grew up out east. Now you live out west. There's a lot more space. There's a lot more opportunity. The economy is a lot better, I would say.
They're going to North Carolina and Arizona. I mean, those are the two states a lot of people from Florida move to. Florida,
Texas.
The thing with Florida is Florida has a lot of humidity, so Arizona is just a different kind of dry heat as well too. And I know a lot of seniors with arthritis problems and stuff like that, they're moving down to Arizona because it's just a little more comfortable to be able to be mobile and stuff at that age. So you're going to find that Phoenix area, Glendale, Scottsdale, it's just a huge area too. So it's just about finding the right spot to put that arena to, I think anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I hear what Beard's saying about, potentially a big market, kids coming up who might not be able to have the sport right there. But when you look at the map, I mean, Salt Lake looks like a great place for a team. I mean, it's in the West. It's a little more north. I mean, you kind of have, will keep your California teams in Vegas, but then you get a nice quick ride from Salt Lake to Denver, and Seattle's kind of all right there. And then maybe you attract, some of these kids from Idaho and Wyoming and Western Colorado. I mean, because they, those the people out there have at least, some mountains, and there's probably some cold weather action out there. So I don't know. I mean, we'd have to kind of see how the NHL attacks that, and how. I mean, are they going to play where the Utah Jazz play? Is that the plan? Playing that?
Yeah. So Ryan Smith, the guy who owns the Jazz, has said he came on McAfee's show and basically said, "Give me an NHL team." Said that he will build a separate stadium, but in the interim, they can play in the arena the Jazz play in. Yeah. Whatever the corporate name it is now, I don't know what it's called. And they're able to take them already in a big arena that holds way more than Mullet. So I think the NHL was okay with this plan. I think once the vote didn't happen, which was absolutely idiotic, that it didn't work out. Arizona voted against it. It wasn't going to cost any money whatsoever. They were going to take an old landfill and redevelop it, they'd already be underway. And we'd be talking about how amazing that arena would be. I just think it's super mismanaged. It's heartbreaking for the fans of Arizona. And here you've got a franchise that's essentially it'll be moved its third time. I do think if they move, though, the Winnipeg Jets should recoup all the records from that franchise because the Winnipeg Jets are back. I also think that if we do get the Atlanta team, I agree with Rico. I think Atlanta is probably the other team. Maybe Houston, but I think Atlanta makes a lot of sense. I think, one, they need to get rid of the divisions. And honestly, I'd be all right with them getting rid of the conferences. And the top four, your number one seeds are number one, number two, number three, number four seeds, respectively. I just feel like the way that it would be so much better, we'd get a little bit more organic rivalries instead of this trying to force the divisions. You don't even play your division team 6 times anymore. You play them 3. It's stupid the way the schedule's now. So it's like, I don't understand it. Like when you're playing each other 6 times, okay, I get it. You want to do, I always thought it was, they just wanted to guarantee Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby play against each other. They developed this. That's why they got rid of the Southeast division, which wouldn't have mattered. Tampa would have overtaken that one when they got good. You're like, oh, Washington's too good. Oh, yeah, well, Carolina was down. They're not down. Now look what that division would be now. It'd be ridiculous, you know? So, I mean, it just makes no – I think they should have divisions, but they got to figure it out. If we go to 34, it'll be the most of any professional franchise. I do think there's enough players. I just feel like there's so much good talent at the AHL that doesn't even get – because if you're a top-line guy in the AHL and you're a great scorer, you may not play in the NHL because they don't need you on the third and fourth line because most teams have those positions filled. You got to be world-class to crack
and compare the NHL to – I mean, there's no minor league in the NFL, right? So it's not like, you know, there's a whole bunch of players who could you know, potentially play pro.
Well, there is now with that USFL or the UFL.
But it's not as developed, I think, as like the AHL.
No.
I mean, so many of these Canadian leagues too. And I don't know.
Absolutely.
I think adding 2 teams would be good.
Well, Europe and the KHL too. Like, think about the opportunities you have to play professional hockey in the world if you don't make it into the 2 biggest leagues, probably the AHL and the NHL. I mean, you know, pretty insane. All right, well, real quick, let's talk about John Tortorella's 2-game sussy. I'm just going to go on a little diatribe here, and then I'll let you guys give your 2 cents. Look, I've actually been a defender of Wes McCauley. I just think he's so out of bounds on this. These refs are unchecked now. They don't have to answer the media. It didn't even look like Torts said anything that out of the thing until he got tossed. It's like, I just don't get it. It's like these refs can run around with impunity and boot coaches, and they're really the coach doesn't have any retort. They're not allowed to like question the call. And I'll be saying, like, you watching the games, the officiating is not good anymore. It's not good. They miss blatant, horrible calls and call ticky-tack stupid stuff that really, and sometimes, in my opinion, doesn't even affect the game. You know, they're calling a lot of penalties away from the puck too, which is like, okay, like, a little bit too much. I feel like tonight was not the case in the Washington game. I think there was 1 penalty called the whole game, but it was a pretty clean game for the most part. And if you're going to have hockey like that, it's fine, but it's just like, I just think like we as fans deserve to get some answers from the refs. I feel like they just kind of run around without impunity. And I have Torts' back on this one, and apparently so does the owner. Or CEO saying they would pay for the fine and whatever. But I mean, for him to get a 2-game sussy, and what really bothered me about the whole thing is Wes McCauley made it about him. They were honoring the 2004 Lightning team that won the Stanley Cup. The Torts was the coach of, and they happened to be playing. I thought it was absolutely classless from Wes McCauley. 1, not to give Torts the moment to be like, hey, this and that and the other. They were getting manhandled. It was 4-0. Torts had a question about a call, and he wanted to talk to the ref. I don't think it was that big a deal. And then McCauley's like, no, fuck you, I'm not talking. I just thought it was way out of bounds for me.
Held by Harrison.
What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Beard here. I think it was out of line for McCauley to kind of play country club, and maybe he's got some kind of gripe against Torts, and I don't even know what, because, you know, who knows. But he made it about himself on a night where, listen, they're down 4-0. Tortorella was honored that night. Just let it go. So I agree with Beard.
Go ahead, Rico.
Yeah, I mean, Garnet Hathaway hardly did anything to Cirelli on that play either. But, I mean, the refs just got to let Torts get it out there a little bit. I mean, your team's down 4-0 in the first 5-10 minutes of the game. So
yeah, zero tolerance there.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting 2 games and a $50,000 fine for that shit. Like, holy moly, that's a little steep. I mean, read the room, man. Like, obviously, it's going to be a long night for that Philadelphia bench. So, yeah, no, I agree with everything you say, man. It's
Burlow, yeah. I really want to hear your thoughts on this one. I'm curious to see what.
I'm a huge Tortorella fan. But, yeah, but when the league gives you 2 games, like, I don't know what was said. I don't know. Like, it seems to me he must have said something under his breath or something or whatever. I could be wrong. I don't know. Is the league really just got it out for Torts? That's it? Because how do you get 2 games from what I saw?
I think it was more the refusing to leave the bench there for a minute. Like, basically, when he was like,
I'm
not going.
Yeah.
Fuck off, I'm not leaving. Which I almost didn't blame him. Because I think what he initially got tossed for was soft as shit. Now, I understand, him not leaving is why they're fining him. But, Wes McCauley needs to be sat down by the league. This is a blatant. This guy is controlling. The game was 4-0, bro. You don't think the coach is going to be pissed? And for what you can tell, Torts doesn't even say anything to him until he gets tossed. I think he deserved an explanation on the Hathaway call, and that's what I think he was trying to get. And I think it was not fair to him, a very seasoned coach, which, by the way, by all accounts, away from the ice, just like a class act grade A human being, everybody I've ever heard that knows him has said this. Okay? So, if players love playing for him, I mean, I know he's not for everybody. The guy's won a Stanley Cup. I think he's gonna be the all-time winningest. Him and Laviolette keep swapping each other positions on who's what or what have you. But wow. We almost had a goal in the LA New York Islanders thing. Anyway, we had
Kempe just ran Sorokin a little bit there.
Yeah. They gave him a penalty for it. Go ahead, Rico.
Anyways, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Rico.
Anyways, I think I really I love Tortorella, so I feel like I could be biased. But after listening to what you're saying, and I don't think I am here, I think I agree with you guys. There's something weird going on there. That was really strange to me.
I've seen the refs out of control in a lot of games this year, and I'm not just ones where John Tortorella has been there. I feel like they've overstepped in a great deal of games this year. So anyway, go ahead and give your final thought.
No, just real quick, I was going to say that on 32 Thoughts at Elliot Friedman today, he mentioned one thing about Torts being gone for these 2 games is watch for Brad Shaw behind the bench for Philadelphia. Apparently he's had a big influence on guys like Sanheim and a few players on Philadelphia, and they've been really, really, really excelling under this guy. He's been a huge impact behind the bench for Philadelphia. So Elliot was just saying, just keep an eye on how he gets that team motivated and how they keep pushing forward. I know they're playing San Jose next, but they do get the Leafs in a few nights as well. So those will be the 2 games without Torts behind the bench. So that's just one quick thing I wanted to say.
That's awesome. And we're having an issue here too. So I cut the podcast short. Let's just jump into previewing tomorrow's games. This is what we have you guys on here for. I'm going to mute here, but I'll pull up the schedule and you guys could just go through the games here. 10 games on the schedule tomorrow.
Rempe might get half of those for his elbow on that New Jersey defenseman Siegenthaler tonight. Did you see Rempe?
Yeah, I saw the hit live, and I got to tell you, man, I don't even know if he saw him. Like, I almost feel bad for this poor SOB. He's so damn tall. Like, it was, yes, he elbowed him in the head, but it was just like, it was almost like he didn't even know he was there. Like, I think he was trying to lay the body on him, but like, this guy's going to have to learn how to do squats. He's so tall. He's going to have to squat down.
He's awkward when he hits. He's awkward when he fights. He's
Instagram,
he's not grown into his body, right?
We're off Instagram. I apologize. Everybody went over the hour. Yeah, I just don't understand, man. It's so crazy to me. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Let's stop sharing. I just yeah, it's a crazy time. It's a crazy time for sure. I just think these refs have to be accountable. I think the next CBA, they need to make it so the refs have to face the media and they're subject to fine and discipline because these guys are human. And I think for far too long, these guys have been retaliatory. And I think hockey is the one sport that's at a major disadvantage. In the NBA, you got fans, they can hear the interaction between the refs and the players. And by all accounts, it's a lot of swearing at each other. Same in the NFL, but they have mics and stuff, so you hear all that. NFL Films gets all that stuff. You can watch almost all that stuff, almost unedited on Inside the NFL, or used to be anyway back in the day. And you know, hockey, I think refs have been running around without impunity. I think some of them think they're bigger than the game. And I think I'm going to reach out to Tim Peel, I think, and see if we can get him on the show. I'd really love to hear from a ref's perspective. I think maybe I'm being over, but Tim might agree too. I feel like sometimes he was one of those refs that kind of let the game come to him and not like say, "Oh, here I am," and making a ton of calls. But again, I probably cussed his name a million times when he was reffing my team. Fucking Tim Peel. But I'd like to see, give him his, just see what his thoughts are. I tend to, he's putting a lot out on that Snipes and Stripes with him and Jeremy Roenick and their podcast. And I'm glad to hear some of his opinions. And I think he's saying some stuff that, a lot of people are not, are afraid to say. And so I'd be curious. We'll see if we can swing that. I think I've got an inside track. He follows me and we've bantered back and forth. So I'll reach out to him. Okay. Real quick, guys. Let's jump right into the preview of the games. We've got Red Wings, Sabres. Red Wings have lost, 5 in a row? Go ahead, Occupancy, kick it off, and I'll give you the over-under while we're looking here.
Yeah, the Red Wings are not in a good way right now. Nothing can go right. Sometimes you get out there and just you can't get it done no matter what. I mean, that Arizona spot on Friday night. Oh my! I was on the Red Wings. Everyone was on the Red Wings that night. That was like a cheap price. That was crazy. And then they got shut out by Arizona at home. So that was, I don't know if that's the season, if you can really say that. But then they were tied in Vegas late, and they couldn't even get the point. So Buffalo, yeah, I mean two wins in their last 5. The overtime win of the Sabres, 2 losses to Nashville, Toronto, and Winnipeg. So they had a hard time there, but then beat Vegas the game before. So, if this was a plus, I'd take plus 120 for Buffalo if I could get it. I don't know what the prices are going to be. I'd have to double check, but not betting the Red Wings. So maybe Sabres and no lean on the total.
Go ahead, Rico or Perlo, whoever.
Man, five losses in a row for Detroit. Holy crapola. I don't know if this is a thing where they're just responding from nothing happening after the deadline and just feeling winded a little bit from that. I mean, the losing streak started before it, but Larkin being gone's a huge void, it seems, on that team as well, too. So it's whether Buffalo gets up for this type of game or not. And, I mean, God, Detroit's this is a must win for them. I don't know, man. They play Buffalo again on Saturday night at home, so I think the Red Wings got to set the tone here in Buffalo and let them know that we're going to take you in this barn on the road in Buffalo because we're going to beat you again when you come back home to Detroit too. You don't want to be fussed at faced with a must win against Buffalo after you've already lost to them. So I'm going to take the Wings here. I'll probably take them in regulation just because they got Buffalo, they got Arizona, they got Buffalo again, they got Pittsburgh, they got Columbus. So the Red Wings need their wins, they need their points, and it starts in Buffalo tomorrow night. So I'll take the Wings probably in regulation. Just a business-like kind of road trip to Buffalo. Yeah, I'm not taking the Sabres there.
Burlow?
Yeah, I think just like everybody was on Detroit and I was on Detroit, I think everybody will be on Buffalo here. But I've been burnt this year so many times by teams having a crappy road trip, and then the last game of that road trip, and we saw it today with St. Louis. That was a terrible spot for St. Louis, but they had a crappy road trip and they just pour it all out because they want to go home on the winning side, or they're just going to give everything they got in that spot. So I'm kind of with Rico here that Detroit will probably pour it all out there. And if you do that against Buffalo, you're going to win more often than not. Buffalo is a highly skilled team, but they're not going to beat anybody up. And they're generally not outworking other teams. They outskill them for the most part. So I'm with Rico. I think I would lean over on the Detroit side on this one.
All right. Well, it's two teams that desperately need the points if they want to stay relevant in the playoff hunt. I mean, Buffalo is pretty far down there, but I guess some type of crazy run they can do it. But two teams are pretty much every game matters.
Yeah. Could see a draw. Could be a really good draw spot, actually.
All right. You're on mute.
The next game, Rangers Hurricanes. Sorry.
Right on.
Yeah, Rangers are plus 130 road dog, and the over under in that is 6. Sorry.
I could jump in. So, interesting spot. Rangers on a back-to-back. Carolina playing really well. 4 of the last 5 got wins. Rangers 3 of their last 5. So both teams in pretty good form here. Were we looking at minus 110 on both sides? About is my guess. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, this is a tough. I mean, maybe. I think the Rangers have been pretty good on the back-to-back. And what did Igor play tonight, or was it Quick?
Quick.
Oh, so Igor tomorrow. Igor Kochetkov. I mean, that screams under. If they could keep it under 6, that's where I would be looking. I don't know. How about you guys?
Third game in 4 nights for both of these teams. These teams are going to be battling for a division. They already are. So I like Carolina just because I think they're going to win the Metro. So I think this is a huge game of basically 2 powerhouses chasing the top of that division. If the game was in New York, I might probably take the Rangers, but because it's in Carolina, I'm going with the Hurricanes in this game.
Yeah, I'm with occupancy on the under here. I think this is going to be a tight playoff type game, and very good goaltenders for sure. Shesterkin looks like he's coming into his own. If I had to take a side, I'm also with Rico. I think Carolina is just in a little better form right now. Pretty pumped after additions at the trade deadline, and I think better addition than the New York Rangers. So with the Rangers being on a back-to-back, I'll lean Carolina, but I do agree with occupancy. I can't see this being an over, so I like under.
Okay, Rico, did you talk about that game?
Yeah, I like the Hurricanes too. Playoff type game because they're both chasing a division. I think Carolina is going to take the division from the Rangers, and this is a huge home win to make sure that happens for Carolina going forward. So I like the Hurricanes in this game at home.
Next game is Blue Jackets at Canadians. Blue Jackets are a +100 road dog. The Jackets Canadians game is I don't know why I'm not seeing it. Over under 6.5.
Yeah, you got to think Montreal here. I think this is just a game of efforts. Montreal gives an effort every time they play, so I think they're just gonna outwill Columbus in a scheme that doesn't really mean anything. This is another one that I'd probably take the Jackets at home, but because Montreal's at home from their home crowd, they're still playing for pride. They play hard under St. Louis, so I think this is just a Montreal win. Both teams on regular rests. Like, there's no weird spots, I don't think, for either one of them.
Go ahead, Perla. Oh, you want me to go? Yeah, I feel the same way. If I'm going to go with an effort, I'll go with Montreal. Like Columbus is kind of messed up right now. They traded a couple players away. Like, it's just a messed up situation there in Columbus. So yeah, I'll take the Montreal.
Columbus has 2 less wins than Montreal. We're talking like they're an absolute dumpster fire. They almost have identical records.
I realize that, but I mean, you're talking about a situation where you're at home, 2 bad teams, one's at home, and when Columbus wins, it's usually based on skill more than it is on effort.
They just beat Edmonton, by the way. I thought that was a pretty big win for the Blue Jackets. But yeah, no, I'm with you, Perlo. I'm not saying anything you're saying.
I just don't think that there's much to get up for. Like, I would rather them play a team like Edmonton where they're going to play against McDavid, but here they're just playing against Montreal. So I think Montreal wins again.
Yeah, I'll wrap this one up here. If I'm betting on form, I'm betting Columbus. Montreal's 1-4 in their last 5, and Columbus has actually beat Edmonton, Vegas, and Chicago. If you remember, the game on March 4th was a lot of the gambling Twitter was on Vegas that night for a bounce back. I think they had just lost to Boston or something the night before, and a lot of people were on Vegas, and that was right before the trade deadline, and there were scouts in the building. I was on Columbus that night, and they've been playing okay. It's one of those situations where you look up and down the roster, and maybe they're about even. I know Montreal works hard, and they do play. They play hard for St. Louis, and they got some guys who've been scoring. There's this new guy Roy. Or Wah, who's been scoring for Montreal here for a prop option. There's Anderson and Suzuki. I think congratulations to him. He just got his 100th goal or point. So Montreal is still a solid team. I'd be on Columbus here, money line. That's how I would be for this one.
Okay, let's move on to Penguins Senators. There's no favorite in that game. I'm getting some feedback, I think. So, Perlo, why don't you kick it off? 6.5 over under.
Okay, sorry about this. Just 1 sec. Move on to someone else. I freaking go. Somebody else go first.
Sorry, yeah. What game did you call, Beer?
Rico, I called Penguin Senators over under 6.5.
Penguin Senators. I like occupancy saying, is it Roy or Wah? It's like the old player back in the day. Remember the goaltender, Guy Hebert? He's like, I'm not Guy Hebert. I'm Guy Hebert. I was born in Troy, New York.
yeah.
Anyway, Pittsburgh, Ottawa, dumpster fires, both teams. I mean, Pittsburgh's got almost 10 more points than Ottawa. I mean, Jesus. It's a Pittsburgh just trying to just give it away. They're putting an average of 40 shots on goal in their last 2 games. They're just running, gunning, who cares, taking shots and doing whatever. And Ottawa team, still a decent roster without Tarasenko. Coming off, I think, a road trip too, are they not? Ottawa's come back home. I think this is a weird spot for both teams. I think they're an in and out for both of these teams. But if I were to take a team right now, again, maybe Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, but Ottawa in Ottawa. I mean, geez, Pittsburgh's in free fall until they win a game. I'm not taking them, so I'll take Ottawa here.
I mean, I didn't think Pittsburgh could look as bad as they did against Washington, and then they played Edmonton, and they looked like an AHL team. It was unbelievably painful to watch, and I watched the entire game. Go ahead, Occupancy. Give us your thoughts on Penguins, Senators, and
I mean, we're really talking bottom of the barrel here, guys. I mean, Ottawa looked terrible in San Jose on Saturday, and I was on Ottawa. They gave Magnus Krona his first NHL win, which was great. But I mean, Ottawa scored 1 goal against San Jose, who before, I mean, they were hemorrhaging goals left and right, and Ottawa can manage 1 goal. So my first look at this one is a pass. I mean, realistically, I don't really want to back either team here. 1 combined win.
No, I got you.
For both teams.
So let's not spend too much more time on it, and let Perlo talk about it then, and we'll move on to the next game. Go ahead, Perlo. You got to unmute here. I got you. I think I can get you.
Sorry about that.
There you go. You're good. You're good. I got
you. Basically, the only way you make a pick on here is who do you think doesn't care the most? That's really what I see with both of these teams is they don't care. And honestly, I think Pittsburgh doesn't care the most. I agree. When I'm watching Pittsburgh, it almost looks like they are giving the finger to upper management and just saying screw you.
Oh, I agree. I agree. You watched that entirety of that Edmonton game, then I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, for a while
they look terrible. Yeah. I mean,
they look
anyway.
Yeah. So
I came to it.
I'm taking Ottawa. I'm taking Ottawa because I just think Pittsburgh really wants to tell ownership that they hate them and everything about them, and they hate everything that's going on, and that's the way they're playing. And I think so. I'm going to take Ottawa for a little bit. I mean, I agree with Occupancy. You probably shouldn't.
You know what's hilarious? The Pens could get a top 10 pick if they keep losing, and they don't even get it. San Jose does. I love it. Oh, I love it. I never see it.
There is some ownership and management hate going on there in Pittsburgh, I believe. So, and I'd also take, I would take a shot at the under just simply because I don't think Ottawa cares enough to score too many goals either. Maybe because they're at home, they get a little fired up or something like that.
Hey, real quick, I want to jump back real quick to that Blue Jackets Canadians game. Hey, goal scoring proc on Brune Jenner though. For me, give me a goal scoring prop on Brune Jenner, whatever the odds are. Any of you guys that can give me odds to get his 20th. Like to see him get his 20th. Canadian kid in Canada. I think a lot of Canadian kids get up to play Montreal. Hopefully he gets his 20th goal scoring prop. And if we hit that, I'll get to do the Banner Beards goal scoring prop. Okay, I want to move on from Penguins Senators.
It's about a plus 150, plus 160. Maybe better.
Okay,
ways, but that's still
good.
Nice.
Maybe parlay that into Ottawa winning the game or something. I don't know. And see what we get there. My thing's wigging out on me here. I wonder how I'm coming across in the internet, guys. My head's not in the game here.
No, you're crystal clear.
No, for you guys, but I'm wondering on the YouTube broadcast. I thought maybe my stream was lagging a little bit. I just lost all the scores. I don't know what the hell happened.
You're good. I could jump in, Beard. And by the way, if you're looking at Boone Jenner to score an Ottawa money line, you could get around a plus 400. So it's an interesting.
There you go.
So that'd be a.
That's what I'm talking about.
So we got
parlay a little too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Philly, San Jose. Philly's minus 300 favorites. San Jose coming in, starting a road trip. Rico, what do we got?
Again, first game without Torts. You're going to see that Bradshaw assistant coach behind the bench. San Jose is going to have a really hard time here. The only thing is Pittsburgh or Philly, they're favored way too much. So I'd probably maybe play a first period puck line, maybe a team total. kind of bet. Not going to do what the sports books want you to bet, but I'll just dance around that a little bit. So I know Philly will win that game, but I'll find some creative ways to play some player props. And then maybe the first period puck line and the team total.
Perla, Philly, San Jose.
Yeah, Philly's going to win this game. It's just a question by how much. What is it, minus 300 for Philly? Is that what you're getting right there? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I go team total over for sure as well. Or, yeah, same thing.
You almost don't want to bet on a line that, But the only thing I'll say is with San Jose, they traded their goalies. They traded Kakinen, and I know they still have McKenzie Blackwood, right? But
he's hurt.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I honestly, if I had to take I wouldn't even mind Philly minus 2.5 here. I think they're going to absolutely ruin him here in this spot. I wouldn't even mind that.
Yeah, the minus 2.5, you get a pretty good odds. Plus 145. It's not even that good of a price for a minus 2.5. But
no.
But it still is the way to go. I mean, they're going to crush San Jose here. I can't see San Jose winning. Not this one.
No.
Not this one. So teams off a loss, like just lately. If we all want to take the 3-way on Philly in the first, the Jets, they came out after the bad loss and won in the first period minus 0.5. It just happened this other game too. Who had just come off a loss and came out hard the next game. Who was that here? Anyway, it's just an interesting angle to look at. Vegas. Vegas was coming in off the loss and
they beat Detroit.
And they covered the minus 0.5 in the first. I was on that plus 135 or something. So Philly probably puck line is decent tomorrow. Plus 110. So you're still getting a little bit of a plus odds. So yeah, I think Philly minus 0.5 in the first sounds about right. Yeah, it's an important game for Philly. We all know that. So.
All right, Rico, you got the last word on Flyers Sharks.
Yeah, I just said first period puck line, probably team total over for Philadelphia. I'm not going to play just a regular money line on them to win. It's not worth it. So, I mean, San Jose has been playing with, a lot more grit, a lot better team play lately. So San Jose's been in games against teams that they shouldn't have, whether that's indicative of them or the other team, but that's been pretty consistent. And San Jose's been playing some pretty good hockey lately. So I'm not going to lay the money on Philadelphia. I'll probably take a couple player props, maybe a first period puck line, I think.
Yeah. Why don't you just kick right into Arizona Wild at the Minnesota Wild? Arizona plus 160 road dog over under 6. Why don't you go right in?
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably see another back and forth game, but Arizona lose one, they'll win one, they'll lose one. I mean, the Detroit game, it seemed like Detroit didn't even show up against them, but Arizona did lose to Minnesota last Thursday 5-2. The Wild are probably going to play another game like they did against Nashville, just go balls out. And I think after a couple OT games against the Avalanche losing, but then beating that Preds team, they got 3 days rest against the Yotes. I think Minnesota comes out pretty good in this game. I'm not taking Arizona. Minnesota's probably going to beat the Coyotes at home. Coyotes are going to put up a fight, but I think with Minnesota, with still hopes of getting into the playoffs some way, somehow, because they got to go to St. Louis after this on a road trip to Anaheim and to LA. So I think they're going to try and take care of business against the Yotes here, and then the Ducks again at home on Thursday, and go out on the road and hope for the best. So I think Minnesota against Arizona, just because Minnesota's got a lot more to fight for here.
Yeah, go ahead, Perlo. Oh, you're muted. Just go ahead and give your picks.
Sorry. I think Minnesota as well. I think they're going to be pretty juiced after that last win as well. It could be kind of a letdown spot after, because that was a really emotional win. That's the only thing that has me worried here a little bit. But this Arizona team isn't very good. And I have a lot of faith in Hines that he'll get them reeled in and playing hard right from the get-go. So Minnesota in regulation would be my pick.
Yep, Minnesota in regulation is a minus 130. That's the way I'm looking here. If you're going to let up 7 goals to Chicago on a Sunday where Chicago is notoriously terrible, and that's how you're going to play, I mean, Minnesota's probably super pumped up right now. So find a way to back Minnesota. I do not see Arizona getting 2 points tomorrow, and I see Minnesota scoring goals.
Okay. Did everybody get a chance to talk about Wild Minnesota?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Coyotes. Okay, Panthers Stars. That's going to be a great game.
Yeah.
Panthers Stars in Dallas. No favorite, over under 6. Go ahead, Perlo. Oh, go ahead, occupancy. Go ahead. You go first. You have.
I mean, without any capping, and if I had to put one unit on something, I would be betting the under 6. Florida's got one of the best defenses in the league. They're not allowing goals either side here. So again, first lean, is under 6. Dallas was an over team, but let me see what they're doing lately. The Anaheim and San Jose games got out of hand, but that's Anaheim and San. I mean, this is gonna be a playoff. This is like a playoff game, I think. Hopefully a playoff style type game. So yeah, for me, it'd be that under 6 is a minus 110. It's a good price. Florida last 5 games, they've only gone over once. 3, 6, 6, and 4 goals in their last 5 games. So I'd be looking at that under 6. How about you? Who wants to go next, Perlo or Rico?
I'll go next. I think this is draw all day. Two powerhouses, basically maybe a Stanley Cup preview here. Both teams trying to show each other the next time we play will probably be in a Stanley Cup final if either of you can make it there. So it's going to be probably a game that's going to be really tight. I know Florida's flying to Carolina right after this too to play 2 nights later. No, it's not a divisional game against Carolina, but they are going to Carolina right after the game in Dallas as well too. But Dallas also coming off a little bit of a road trip too. Their West Coast road trips isn't as far geographically as a lot of other teams are, but this is going to be a game of Verbosky and Ottinger and best on best. And again, a Stanley Cup preview that could very well happen. So I'm probably just going to go with the draw. The teams take their points and get the hell out of town. And I'm not on a side yet, but man, hey, it could be 1-2-0 Florida after the first, or 1-2-0 Dallas after the first, and nobody would be surprised. Or it could be just a nail biter and a draw type game. So I'm not on any side right now. I just think it's a point for Florida, a point for Dallas. Neither of these teams are meeting except for the Stanley Cup final. So points are at a premium here for either of these teams. But I think Dallas needs the points more than Florida. So if I were to lean, it'd probably be Dallas because they're in that tight Central Division right now. And they probably want to win that division at home. And they want to make a statement at home. So I'd probably lean Dallas, maybe a small play on a draw there.
Yeah, Perlo, go ahead and give us your thoughts. And then we're going to jump just to the Avalanche Flames. We're not going to preview Ducks, Blackhawks, and I'll just give you guys information after we're done here. Nothing with the stream, just what's going on behind the scenes at Casa de Maxwell. Go ahead, Perlo, give your Panther Stars, and we'll move on to Avalanche Flames. So just roll over to Avalanche Flames there, my man. You got to unmute.
I'm not muted.
You're unmuted. You're unmuted. I got you.
Okay. Yeah. I like the under 2, but I like the under first period better. I think this is going to be a really slow game coming out of the first. They're going to feel each other out. Neither one of them are going to want to come balls out here in this spot. So I like under first period quite a bit. I do like the draw. I like draw first period. All of that kind of stuff, tightly contested. If I had to take a side, I'm going with Florida. I just think Florida's just I think Florida is not just good. I think they are way better than the rest of the league. I think this team is way better than the rest of the league. So
I think Rico's pissed because I think you're bang on, Perlo. I think you're right as rain. I saw
everybody's stroking the Panthers these days.
Dude, I saw the Cup champions play last year in person. I was like, I don't see a team beating this team. And I'll tell you what, I saw the Florida Panthers, and I just don't see the weakness. And they added Tarasenko. I totally agree. Let's go ahead, Perlo, go right into Avalanche Flames. Flames are a plus 142 road dog. That's the last game we'll preview tonight before the stream is up. Go ahead, my man.
The Flames are coming off of Eastern road trip here, aren't they? Yeah, they're done. Avalanche all day. Puck line. I'll take them puck line. I think they're going to win like nobody business.
Rico, go ahead then.
Yeah, the only fight that Calgary has is their deep defense score shut down the top. Oh, no, wait. They got rid of their defense. Shit, I forgot about that. They got no more defense.
They can all these guys they traded, though. That's what's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Oh, God. Miramanov isn't going to be able to shut down McKinnon.
Oh, Rasmus Anderson's like, what the hell did I sign up for here?
Yeah, I think he's out injured, isn't he? I think he's out, too, for them. I think Rasmus Anderson's banged up, isn't he?
All right. Okay.
Go ahead, Occupancy.
Yeah, Colorado 5-1.
Give us your final one, Occupancy. Give us your final one, and we'll call it a night.
You're muted.
You're muted, Occupancy. You're muted.
Thanks. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're okay.
Yeah, if I was down to my last two units, I put one on Colorado -0.5 in the first period, plus 130. And I put the other one on Colorado team total over 3.5, whatever the odds were. So Calgary's not going to be able to stop Colorado, and Colorado's rolling. So try to get it done in the first, and if not, I think they could get to 4 here.
So here's my only thing.
If Occupancy was on a betting deserted island with nothing but 2 units in his pocket, he'd be like, oh, God, how do I double this right now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I would just say this. Colorado's been marginal on the road, and that's the only thing that scares me about them. Andrew Beauchesne says Flames under. Hey, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. This is NHL Nightly, brought to you by Fans First Sports Network. Appreciate you. You can download the pod on all your podcast stuff, FFSN, NHL Nightly. Appreciate all you. We'll see you tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern. Peace.